this video, I will explain various steps in research process. Research process consists of series of actions and steps needed for conducting scientific research. If the researcher follows certain steps in conducting the research, the work can be carried out smoothly with the least difficulty. Step 1. Identification of the problem. The research question determines the direction of study and researchers. The main function of formulating a research problem is to decide what you want to find out about. It is extremely important to evaluate the research problem in the light of funds, time, and expertise and knowledge available at your disposal. The psychological studies are focused on one or many of the following kinds of questions. What are the events that cause or determine a given behavior or response? What is the nature of behavior or action? Its structure and how it is linked with other actions and behaviors. What are the relationship of internal psychological process with behavioral phenomena? Two steps are involved in formulating the research problem. Step 1. Understanding the problem thoroughly. Step 2. Rephrasing the same into meaningful terms. Once the question has been asked, the next step is to identify the factors that have to be examined to answer the question. The factors may be age of the child, degree of violence in programs, emotional arousal, facial expression, family communication patterns, etc. Review of literature. For identifying a good solvable problem, the investigator undertakes the review of literature. A body of prior work related to a research problem is referred to as literature. Scientific research includes a review of the relevant literature. When a researcher reviews the previous researches in related fields, he becomes familiar with the several known and unknowns. Therefore, one obvious advantage of review of literature is that it helps to eliminate duplication of what has already been done and provide guidance and suggestion for further research. The main purpose of review of the literature. First, it gives an idea about the variables which have been found to be conceptually and practically important and unimportant in the related field. Thus, the review of literature helps in discovering and selecting variables relevant for the given study. Second, the review of the literature provides an estimate of the previous work and provides an opportunity for the meaningful extension of the previous work. Third, a review of the literature helps the researcher in systemizing the expanding and growing body of knowledge. This facilitates in drawing useful conclusions regarding the variables under study and provides a meaningful way of their subsequent applications. Fourth, a review of the literature also helps in redefining the variables and determining the meanings and relationship among them so that the researcher can build up a case as well as a context for further investigation that has merit and applicability. There are different sources of review of the literature, such as journals, books, abstracts, indexes, and periodicals. If you are not sure what journals and other resources to examine for research idea, you should know what the computer search engine PsycInfo is a very effective tool for going through the technical literature. The print companion to PsycInfo is Psychological Abstracts, and both of these contain abstracts of articles from almost all journals that publish psychological research. If you find an abstract of interest, you can then read the entire articles for additional information. Step 2. Formulating hypothesis. Hypothesis may be defined as a tentative statement showing a relationship between variables under study. Hypothesis plays the key role in formulating and guiding any study. The hypotheses are generally derived from earlier research findings, existing theories, and personal observation and experiences. When the researcher has identified the problem and reviewed the relevant literature, he formulates a hypothesis, which is a kind of suggested answer to the problem. For unbiased research, the researcher must formulate a hypothesis in advance of the data gathering process. No hypothesis should be formulated after the data are collected. Step 3. Identifying, manipulating and controlling variables. Variables are defined as those characteristics which are manipulated, controlled and observed by the experimenter. Three types of variables: the dependent variables, the independent variables and the extraneous variables. First one is dependent variable. The dependent variables is one about which the prediction is made on the basis of the experiment. In other words, the dependent variable is the characteristics or condition that changes as the experimenter changes the independent variable. The independent variable. Independent variable is that condition or characteristics which is manipulated or selected by the experimenter in order to find out its relationship to some observed phenomena. The extraneous variable. A extraneous variable is the uncontrolled variable that may affect the dependent variable. The experimenter is not interested in the changes produced due to the extraneous variable, and hence he tries to control it as far as practicable. The extraneous variable is known as the relevant variable. Next is operational definitions. In order to make a variable clear, precise and easy to communicate, it is important that it is operationally defined. An operational definition involves specifying the actual operations that define a given variable. Operational definition is also important for the purpose of measurement. Since psychological variables are complex and their measurement poses special problems, therefore psychologists are very eager to use operational definitions. They frequently use verbal measures, behavioral measures and psychological measures of variables in their studies, which are able to help him or her to specify the operations and may allow quantification. Step 4. Formulating research design. A research design may be regarded as the blueprint of those procedures which are adapted by the researcher for testing the relationship between the dependent variable and the independent variable. Selection of experimental design based on purpose of the research, types of variables to be controlled, manipulated the conditions under which the experiment is to be conducted. A research design should include the following. Logistical arrangements have to be made according to proposed research design. The measurement procedures, the sampling strategy, the frame of analysis, the time frame. The main purpose of experimental design: to help the researcher in manipulating the independent variables freely, to provide maximum control of the extraneous variables. The main function of research design is to explain how you will find answers to your research question. The research design sets out the logic of your inquiry. For any investigation, the selection of an appropriate research design is crucial in enabling you to arrive at valid findings, comparisons and conclusions. A faulty design may derive misleading findings. Empirical investigation is primarily evaluated in the light of the research design. While selecting a research design, it is important to ensure it is valid, workable and manageable. Constructing devices for observation and measurement. When the research design has been formulated, the next step is to construct or choose appropriate tools of research for scientific observation and measurement. Questionnaire and interview schedule are the most common tools which have been developed for the psychological research. All these tools of research are ways through which data are collected by asking for information from person rather than observing them. Sample collection and data collection. After deciding the tools for the study of the research also decides about the participants of the study. Usually a small sample is drawn which represents the population. Depending on the nature of research problem, a researcher may choose particular method for data collection. The researcher also decide how the tools to be administered to collect data, that is individual or group. Observation, experiment, case study and survey. These are the different methods for sample collection. Next, step 5 is data analysis and their interpretation. After making observation, the data collected are analyzed with the help of various quantitative or statistical and qualitative techniques. Careful scrutiny of the data is a critical aspect of scientific method. In general, the purpose of carrying out the statistical analysis is to reject the null hypothesis so that the alternative hypothesis may be accepted. Data analysis can be done by using univariate analysis in which research deals with a single characteristics of interest. Bivariate analysis in which the researcher deals with two characteristics of interest. Using multivariate analysis in which more than two characteristics are involved. Step 6. Drawing conclusion. The investigator, after analyzing the results, draw some conclusions. Whatever conclusion drawn, researcher generalize it to the all population. During this phase, hypotheses are accepted or rejected. At the same time, the conclusions of the study are related to the theory or research findings from which the hypothesis originally came. Depending on the new findings, the original theory may have to be modified. The purpose of the analysis is to make sense of the data and see what light they throw on the problem and the hypothesis of the study and draws conclusion accordingly. Depending upon the nature of data and purpose of the experiment, either a parametric statistics or non-parametric statistics is chosen for statistical analysis. Step 7. Preparation of report and publication. This is the last step in most of the research studies. The researcher documents all the steps of his or her research in clear terms. This report informs that what you have done, what you have discovered and what conclusion you have drawn from findings. This helps the reader to understand the study and use it for various purposes. It allows one to replicate the study, the publication of study in scientific journals or books, and in publication domain makes the work available for wider dissemination.